Detroit, 1970. As rising gas prices and Japanese imports threaten American dominance, General Motors promises a revolutionary compact car, the Chevrolet Vega, to save its future. Initial reviews hail it as a triumph, but in the shadows of assembly lines and boardrooms, doubts surface. Within a few years, those hopes turn to headlines, rust, recalls, lawsuits, and shattered trust. How did Detroit's great gamble become the Chevrolet that nearly brought General Motors to its knees? The answer begins here. Imports were no longer a distant threat. By 1971, nearly 1 out of every 5 cars sold in America came from overseas, a leap from just over 10% a few years earlier. Japanese brands like Toyota and Datsun, once dismissed by Detroit, were now flooding city streets and suburban driveways. Their compact cars promised reliability, efficiency, and value at a time when American models seemed oversized and thirsty. At the same moment, the price at the pump crept upward. Gasoline, stable for years, inched from 34 to 36 cents a gallon between 1968 and 1971. News stories showed images of drivers waiting in long, anxious lines, worried that the next price jump might come overnight. For families on tight budgets, every cent mattered. Inside General Motors headquarters, the numbers painted a stark picture. The company's share of the small car market was eroding, and forecasts warned of a future where imports could claim a quarter or more of American sales. Executives saw the writing on the wall that if they failed to answer the challenge, General Motors risked losing not just profits, but its place at the heart of American industry. Pressure built with each passing quarter. The boardroom became a place of urgent debate, with leaders pushing for a bold public promise. Detroit needed a new kind of car, one that could silence the critics, win back customers, and stop the bleeding before it became irreversible. Ed Cole, GM's president, believed the company's future depended on a bold, unmistakable answer to the import wave. He pushed the Vega project forward with an urgency that left little room for hesitation. Cole's vision was clear. The car would be lighter, more advanced, and cheaper to build than anything Chevrolet had attempted. He demanded a revolutionary aluminum engine and insisted on an aggressive timeline, shrinking the usual development cycle to just over 2 years, a move that alarmed seasoned engineers. From the start, not everyone shared Cole's confidence. John DeLorean, then Chevrolet's general manager, described the Vega as a car that produced a hostile relationship and that nobody wanted anything to do with it. He warned that the schedule left no margin for testing or fixes, but his objections were sidelined. The boardroom atmosphere grew tense as Cole overruled delays, convinced that speed was essential to reclaiming the small car market. Early press coverage only raised the stakes. Motor Trend named the Vega the 1971 Car of the Year, praising its modern design and engineering ambition. The award was trumpeted in GM's marketing, fueling expectations both inside and outside the company. With the public now watching, failure was not an option, at least on paper. Inside GM, however, the rush to meet deadlines forced compromises that would soon haunt the project. The pressure to deliver a miracle car on time and under budget set the stage for engineering risks that would ripple far beyond the boardroom. The centerpiece of General Motors' gamble was the Vega's aluminum engine block, a technical leap meant to save weight and cut costs. At the Messina plant in New York, engineers relied on the A390 alloy, rich in silicon, to create a block that could be cast without the usual iron sleeves. The goal was straightforward: make the engine lighter and cheaper to produce, promising better fuel economy than the imports. The process involved exposing silicon crystals during machining, forming a hard surface for the pistons to ride against. After casting, each block was heat-treated and impregnated with sodium silicate to seal microscopic pores, a step designed to keep oil and coolant where they belonged. But the chemistry was unforgiving. Aluminum and iron expand at different rates when heated. The Vega's block, paired with a cast iron cylinder head, faced constant stress every time the engine warmed up. Under normal driving, the mismatch put pressure on the head gasket, a thin barrier that struggled to hold back hot gases and coolant. In real-world conditions, overheating became common. When the engine ran hot, the softer aluminum block warped, long before the iron head did, distorting the cylinder bores and allowing coolant and oil to escape. The result was a chain reaction. Coolant loss led to more overheating, which accelerated warping, which caused oil to burn and leak. Some owners reported burning a quart every few hundred miles. Attempts to fix the problem, like improved valve seals and an overflow bottle, came too late for many. The promise of a lightweight, advanced engine turned into a liability, as thousands of Vegas suffered warped blocks, blown gaskets, and premature breakdowns. For General Motors, the aluminum block was not just an experiment gone wrong, it became a symbol of innovation, rushed past the breaking point. Beneath the Vega's clean lines and modern silhouette, trouble began with the very skin of the car. To meet aggressive cost targets, General Motors specified body panels stamped from 0.027-inch steel, thinner than the industry norm. This decision, meant to save weight and money, left the Vega vulnerable to the elements from the start. Unlike many competitors, the car's steel received little galvanizing or rust protection. Rainwater and road salt found their way into fender seams and rocker panels, where moisture lingered and corrosion spread. Within just a few winters, owners reported rust bubbling through paint, doors that no longer closed cleanly, and floor pans developing holes that exposed bare asphalt below. Internal tests had predicted these risks, but engineers' warnings went unheeded in the race to production. The Vega structure also imposed strict limits on performance. When Chevrolet partnered with Cosworth Engineering to develop a high-output version, they discovered the car's body and chassis could safely handle no more than 270 horsepower. The thin-gauge steel, already prone to flexing and fatigue, set a hard ceiling on what the platform could endure. For a car marketed as advanced and forward-thinking, the reality was a fragile shell that struggled to withstand both time and ambition. The combination of rapid rust and modest structural strength turned the Vega's promise into a liability. What began as a symbol of innovation became, for many owners, a lesson in hidden fragility, one that would haunt General Motors' reputation long after the last Vega left the assembly line. Trouble erupted on the factory floor before it could be contained in the boardroom. In 1972, a cascade of recalls swept across the Vega lineup. Hundreds of thousands of cars were flagged for urgent repairs. Axles were prone to detaching and sending wheels flying. Carburetors flooded engines, and throttles could jam wide open. Each new defect forced General Motors to issue another safety notice, flooding dealerships with angry owners demanding answers. Warranty claims soared, and the company's efforts to patch the damage spiraled into a logistical nightmare. Inside the Lordstown plant, tension boiled over. Workers, pushed to their limits by relentless line speeds, and shrinking crews fought back. The United Auto Workers staged a 22-day wildcat strike in March 1972, halting production and costing General Motors an estimated $150 million. Assembly lines sat still while union leaders and managers clashed over impossible demands and eroding trust. Stories spread of sabotage, missing bolts, loose parts, unfinished welds, yet most workers blamed the chaos on a system moving too fast for anyone to fix. Quality suffered as cars rolled out half-finished and the sense of control slipped away. In those weeks, the Vega's promise gave way to open revolt, and the cost of rushing to market became impossible to ignore. By 1975, the damage was impossible to hide. Chevrolet extended the Vega's engine warranty, promising to cover overheating and warping for up to 5 years or 60,000 miles, a move almost unheard of for an American car at the time. Dealerships scrambled to install update kits, overflow bottles to catch lost coolant, warning lights to alert drivers before engines ran dry, and plastic fender liners to slow the relentless spread of rust. But for many owners, these fixes arrived too late. Engines failed in the tens of thousands, and rust crept through the bodywork in as little as 2 winters. Class action lawsuits gathered momentum, with angry owners demanding answers and compensation. Reports of lost wages, repeated breakdowns, and cars declared unsalvageable filled legal dockets across the country. Warranty costs soared into the hundreds of millions, and the Vega's reputation never recovered. Of the 2 million cars built, few survived the decade. For General Motors, every failed Vega was more than a financial loss. It was a blow to the trust that once defined American cars. Reputation, once lost, is slow to rebuild. Today, every automaker faces relentless scrutiny. One misstep can echo for decades. The fallout from a single flawed promise still shapes how we trust, or doubt, what rolls off the assembly line. In the end, trust is the hardest thing to engineer.